Hungarian Grand Prix for round number 6 of Season 5 of the Formula PlayStation League. And we've arrived here with the Red Bull of Nuth, expected to have a strong weekend on a downforce orientated circuit. Looking to maximise on that and extend his already pretty enormous championship lead thus far in the FPSL. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. 16 drivers with us for this short qualifying and 50% Grand Prix. And will that 64-point gap at the top be reduced here at this 4.3 kilometre Hungaroring? Or will there be a surprise? Well, Vapor took pole last time out in his first pole position of the season, but could only hang on for his second podium. With 4 points finishes, 1 DNF as well from the season. But despite that level of consistency, it's been difficult for anybody to touch Nuth. Will Shea be able to do so here in the Williams? He's going to be the first one to set a qualifying lap on the soft compound tyre. At the moment on the timing screens we're being shown as Cam, Kasu and TDB. The only 3 drivers to be using the medium compound of tyre. For a Grand Prix which may yield some joy from a changed strategy or a different strategy from the others. Of course, it's difficult to make a one-stop strategy work here in Hungary, so potentially starting on a harder compound tyre may be to some drivers' advantage, but of course that doesn't necessarily account for some of the chaos that we can get in league racing and that we saw at the French Grand Prix as well. The Pirelli French Grand Prix last time out. Hungary then is the first Formula 1 venue to consistently hold a Grand Prix since the Iron Curtain was lifted. And that was in 1986 when racing started here. It's a 1:14.3 from Vapor to set the first lap time. Before that, racing was actually quite a hit. In the country of Hungary, Brown's had his lap invalidated, as has Sam. Vapor Reese goes second with a 1:14.7. Kasu 1:15.2. There's Kasu's teammate Trixky. Currently got Bazooka Joe on an out lap as well in the Ferrari. He just starts a lap. As Trixky then in the McLaren brings his car in towards the final couple of corners. TDB 5th fastest, 1:15.4. Oh, that's a big back loss there for Trixky out of the penultimate corner. I'll just cost him a little bit of time. Final turn. And what will this be for the McLaren driver? It's P4, 1:14.8, and he'll know, of course, that there is also time to be gained after that slight error. 1 podium so far. Excuse me, 1 point finish so far for Trixky. 3 non-finishes so far, so we'll be looking for a better result here in Hungary for round number 6. There is Sam in the Williams. And around the final turn for him at a track, as I mentioned, where racing didn't necessarily start in Hungary in the 1980s. Back in the 30s, Formula 1 actually held some street races in Neplage Park as it goes slowest of the current runners with a 1:16.1. It then switched in the late 1930s all the way up to the 1970s, where it actually went to Ferihegi Airport. You may have noticed in Berlin for Formula E, they used the Tempelhof Airport over there. They used the airport in Ferihegi for some Hungarian races for a while, not an official Hungarian Grand Prix, I should mention. They were non-World Championship events. So that's a big spin for Vapor Josh in the Renault, and he hits the wall pushing into the final sector and pushing just a little too hard. Hasn't picked up any front wing damage, but will certainly have picked up quite a bit of tyre wear as a result of that. Vapor Josh, someone as well who hasn't had an awful lot of luck so far in the FPSL. 2 races, 1 non-finish and 1 finish outside of the points for Josh, and unfortunately just didn't have much luck on that particular qualifying run either, as he just about brings that Renault back into the pits. There is all Soppy meanwhile in the Alpha Tauri, just about to start a lap. Someone then had the great idea in the 1980s, some clever clogs noticed that there was actually a venue about 11 kilometres out of the centre of Budapest that lent itself perfectly to a Formula 1 venue. And so F1 came here, they call it the Hungary Ring, and here we are with 35 Hungarian Grand Prix having been contested here at this circuit. All Soppy runs slightly wide into the chicane as Buttons back retires from the session in the Red Bull. Buttons back just off the podium last time in France, and All Soppy just off the track, which results in his lap time being deleted, so we have to come back round and try and set another lap. Quite a few drivers then just pushing the track limits a little too far early doors, and a couple of lap times being put in the red. All Soppy's going to come round the final corner and give it another go. Cam's retired from the session as well. So quite a few, well, a couple of drivers having dramas early on in qualifying, and that means that Cam and Buttons back are not going to be setting laps in this qualifying session. They're going to have to start from the back of the grid with Vapor King, Fashion, All Soppy and Josh, and actually Nuth and Brown all yet to set lap times. All Soppy brings it up then towards turn 4. Up the hill, hits the apex, and once again has the lap invalidated, this time for running wide through turn 4. So yeah, just has to find that little bit of consistency at the moment. All Soppy, just the 1 finish in the top 10 from the 4 races so far. Brown rounds the final corner in Haas, and up to line for him. P7 114.9 to break into the top 10. Nuth, the championship leader, still yet to leave the garage and go for a lap. He's probably going to wait to be a bit of a showstopper, as he has been so far throughout the 5 races in the Formula PlayStation League. Vapor King in the Alfa Romeo round the final couple of turns in towards the final corner. Nicely, smoothly done, uses the exit curb and goes up to P1, 114.1, couple of tenths ahead of Vapor Trench in the Mercedes. A very good lap from the Alfa Romeo driver. Vapor Josh has retaken to the circuit on an outlap at the moment, so a fresh set of tyres put on the car after the previous set was slightly ruined by the spin that he had on his first run in qualifying, and he will try now to make it round the lap, will the Renault driver, as I say, looking for his first points of the season and looking for his first lap time in this short qualifying session. Down towards turn 1 then for the Renault, who the Renault team, who announced earlier in the week that they would become Alpine Racing, and that Renault is becoming a little bit of a ragdoll at the moment. Vapor Josh has spun again, he's hit the wall again, this time he's damaged the front wing, and that's just so frustrating for the Renault driver, who at the moment just can't seem to put a lap together. It's a session that's not going well for him at the moment. Needs to put a lap out of somewhere, just hasn't been able to get it together so far, and he won't be able to come back round to set another lap either just yet, as he'll be coaxing that one back to the pits minus a front wing, unfortunately. There's Kasu in the McLaren, nicely done through turn 4, manages to avoid track extending There's Josh in the runner, just getting out of his way. In front of him. Through the chicane goes Kasu in towards this tight, twisty middle sector, where quite a bit of downforce and a bit of skill is needed. Using the curb to maximum effect as he comes in towards this final sector. These last couple of corners of the circuit. Through turn 15, up the hill now towards the final corner of 16. Probably a little bit wider on the entrance than he would have wanted, but now across the line for Kasu to go P3. Slots in just behind his teammate Trixie, very close between the two McLarens. And I think he'll be pretty satisfied with that lap so far. Right, there's the man we all want to watch, Vapor Nuth, on the medium compound tyre, looking to set alight the Hungaroring as he has done. So many circuits already in the early going of Season 5 of the FPSL. Looking to become... Oh, as he runs wide and has his lap invalidated. So there's a mistake for you from the Red Bull driver. Looking to become the first champion of this current crop of drivers after Ryder left the league a couple of weeks ago. And he previously had been the only champion in the FPSL. Vapor Shea has gone quickest meanwhile, 1:14.1 in the Williams, as Nuth will come back around with just under 6 minutes to go of the session to try and set another lap. Still waiting for Josh to go back out and set a lap. So too with Allsoppy and also Fashion in the Alfa Romeo, as well as, of course, our championship leader Nuth. As I say, that enormous 64, I should say, point lead at the top of the World Drivers' Championship at the moment. His team, Red Bull, leading by 33 points, with himself and Buttons back grabbing some points, although Buttons back, his teammate, as we know, is going to be starting from the back, having retired from the qualifying session quite early on, along with the Alpha Tauri of Cam. So those two are going to have quite the task on their hands to try and recover those cars and get up into the points, which will be an interesting affair to watch that happen. Nuth has made it through the first couple of sectors. A bit of a twitch, though, on the back end as he comes in towards the final section of the circuit. Allsoppy's gone up to 10th with a 1:15.9. A couple of tenths clear of Bazooka Joe as Vapor Shea continues to lead the session. Vapor King second, Trench in third, and then Trixie fourth with Kasu in fifth. The medium tyres arguing with Nuth a little bit, but round the final corner it comes and up towards the line for the Red Bull, and it's only P9 on the medium tyres for Nuth. So the medium's clearly not giving anywhere near as much yield as the softs, grip-wise or pace-wise. Oh, Vapor Josh has spun again, and he's absolutely smashed into the barrier this time. He's not recovering that one. And that, I believe, was just as he was about to finish a lap or start a lap. Not sure which one. It doesn't really matter which one. He has wrecked that car. He's already spun it twice, and this time, unfortunately for him, he's put it in the wall and ended his session. And he'll be starting from the back as well. Just couldn't get a lap together, and that time just looked to be pushing too hard. Perhaps in frustration at the first couple of laps that had gone awry, but that is him out of qualifying and in need of a pretty good performance over the 36 laps that await us, 35 laps I should say, that await us over the course of the Grand Prix. About 153 kilometre race distance we'll have ahead of us with a 50% race, as Nuth brings his Red Bull back into the pits, which leaves Fashion the only driver yet to set a lap so far. One of 5 drivers going out. They will expect obviously quite a few to come out and set more laps. It's pretty tight up there between Shea, Vapor King, Trench, Trixie, Kasu, also Reese. Sam's just a couple of tenths off as well. And then it's 5 tenths back to TDB from there. So you're really looking at 7 drivers up there right now who you could easily suggest are in serious contention of taking pole position here in Hungary. So this is going to be a really interesting end to qualifying. Will Vapor hang on for his second consecutive pole position? Or will we have a new pole sitter in King, or Trench, or Trixie, or Kasu, or Reese, or Sam? Could be any one of them. Will Nuth be able to come back out and improve on his lap time and potentially get that Red Bull up to pole? Fashion runs wide and the Alfa Romeo gets away with it. Is able to continue the lap. In towards these final few corners. Has a couple of little attempts at getting it turned in to turn 14. And up towards the final corner of 16. Swings the Alfa Romeo into the final turn. Allsoppy is retired from the session in the Alfa Tauri. And Fashion is unable to improve. Stays 13th. Excuse me, unable to improve. This is his first lap time, I should say. 1:16.9. 8/10 away from what Pazoka Joe has set in front of him. So, yeah, he'll not be entirely happy with that, I don't suspect. There's Trixie. Sitting on a 1:14.2 at the moment in this qualifying session. Pazoka Joe has just begun a lap in the Ferrari, looking to improve on 12th place. Or he's about to begin a lap, I should say. Reese now in towards the final couple of corners in the other Ferrari. Had a DNF last time in France whilst chasing Cam. And Cam's the one who's going to be doing the chasing this time around, starting from the back of the grid. Reese, though, with 1 point finish from the 5 races so far. Up to P1, 1:13.9. Is this going to be his first pole position of the season so far? Well, Vapor will probably have something to say about it. He'll be wanting to improve and try and get back ahead of Reese. A couple of tenths needed in the Williams to surpass the Ferrari. Trixie's retired from the session meanwhile, so we're not going to be seeing the McLaren on pole this evening. And it's a purple middle sector as well for Shea. Looking like a good competitive lap. Is it going to be enough to steal pole position? The checkered flag has fallen on the 18-minute session. Shea round the final corner now and opens up the DRS. Is this going to be pole? No, it's not an improvement. 1:13.9. Well, it is an improvement, but it's not enough to overtake Reese. King goes on pole meanwhile with a 1:13.7. Brilliant lap from the Alfa Romeo to steal pole potentially away from the Alfa Romeo. But here comes Trench through turn 5 for the Mercedes. If he's got any time that he can find, he needs to find it now. In towards the chicane. Mercedes, whose driver Lewis Hamilton in 2019 became the first driver since 2013 to win 2 consecutive Hungarian Grand Prix, as Nuth goes quickest, 1:13.7 in the Red Bull. Went on to a set of soft tyres. Looks as though he's taken pole for the Aramco Hungarian Grand Prix. What can Trench do? Can he get this Mercedes up on the front row? Is it going to be enough to take pole position? Round the final corner comes the Mercedes. It's third, 1:13.8. Gets himself in the conversation, but doesn't get himself onto pole position, because that, for the 4th time this season, has gone to Vapor Nuth in the Red Bull. The championship leader is going to be the race leader off the line, taking pole by 0.04 of a second from the Alfa Romeo of Vapor King. A brilliant lap at the end from Nuth. He was able to improve. He was able to take pole. Will he be able to convert that into a victory over the course of the 50% Grand Prix? Vapor Shea, who was looking on course for pole at one point, ends up down in 5th. Reese in 4th. It was a heavyweight battle between multiple drivers for pole position, and it's our championship leader who takes it. An interesting point of note too, that of the 35 races we've had here, 16 have been won from pole position, from the best seat in the house. Vapor King would be looking to become the 7th driver to win the race from second. 13 have been won from outside of the front row. And those generally tend to yield some pretty interesting races indeed. Jenson Button won in 2006, his first ever win in Formula 1 from 14th on the grid. Daniel Ricciardo won the crazy 2014 race, and the equally crazy 2015 race was won from outside the front row by Sebastian Vettel. Just 3 of the 13 occasions that's been done here at the Hungaroring. And so if there is to be a winner from outside the top 2 this evening, then you would expect it to be a pretty entertaining race indeed. Will that transpire over the next 35 laps? Well, we're about to find out. Away goes Nuth on the formation lap, getting the tyres warmed up, and it's an overcast race session, which will provide a bit more of a challenge in terms of getting the tyres warmed up and making sure that the car is up to optimal temperature. And with quite a few clouds overhead, just to say that we're not going to get any rain over the course of this Aramco Hungarian Grand Prix. Touching on the point earlier, Lewis Hamilton, of course, has won the last 3. And it was him that was the last driver as well in Hungary to claim 2 consecutive Hungarian Grand Prix. With McLaren and Mercedes in 2012 and 2013, and then Mercedes, of course, in 2018 and 2019, and now, of course, 2020, which also makes him the most successful driver in Hungary with 8 victories. McLaren, though, still hold the accolade for the amount of Grand Prix won in Hungary with 11, although they haven't won this race since 2012 with Lewis Hamilton. Before that, with Jenson Button in 2011 in the wet race. Of course, McLaren seeking their first win in Formula 1 at the moment since Button in 2012 in Brazil, the same year that they won their last Hungarian Grand Prix, incidentally. But will it be new stay for Red Bull? Will there be an Alfa Romeo taking the victory? Or will Mercedes be on the top step? We're about to find out as we prepare for lights out here in Hungary. Mercedes have won 5 of the races here in Hungary since the dawn of the hybrid era. Will it be them? Will it be Red Bull? We're about to find out. The Hungarian Grand Prix is underway and off the line. How's the start from Nuth? It's pretty good. Vapor King trying to get alongside him on the run down towards turn 1, but Nuth got the better start. Down the inside goes Reese, maybe in the Ferrari. Trent's going round the outside, trying to hold position from him. King manages to just about hold it to second place, but he's being slipstreamed by Trench in the Mercedes. It's a very good start, though, from Nuth off the line. And he holds it into turn 2. And then the Alfa Romeo of King, followed by Trench and Reese. And behind the Alfa Romeo of Fashion, way back up the order as he gets ahead of Bazooka Joe round the outside of turn 4 by the looks of it. Really good move by him. Vapor Josh making progress as well, up to P13. And Cam has lost out slightly. He's only just ahead of Bazooka Joe now, so a bit of drama going on in the background. But it's Nuth who continues to lead from Vapor King, just ahead of Trench. Then Reese behind. So Trench managed to get ahead of Reese, and Kasu meanwhile nearly getting alongside Shea, who is having to, at the moment, just hold on to P5. It was pretty close to pole position. A number of drivers thrown their name in the hat for pole. And one of them, Vapor Shea, is being chased now by the McLaren. Meanwhile, Nuth continues to lead, and behind we've got Trench defending from Reese in towards turn 1. Reese unable to get ahead of him just yet, but he's got a good exit out of turn 1. Now they're side by side towards 2. Reese gets ahead of the Mercedes and takes 3rd place in this Hungarian Grand Prix. Reese then up into the podium places. There's Nuth, King, Reese, Trench, Shea, Kasu. Castu and the McLaren continues to chase down the Mercedes-powered Williams on lap 2 of the Aramco Hungarian Grand Prix. Fashion and Bazooka Joe have been going side by side. Cam has fallen down the order and he's now down to last of the runners at the moment. Not the ideal start that he was looking for in the early going of this race. Brown just outside the points, runs very wide indeed in the Haas, and meanwhile up ahead of him TDB going side by side with Allsoppy, and there's a bit of front wing damage I believe for the Mercedes. He's down the inside again, there's more contact between them. Oh, and a spin as well for the Red Bull of Buttons back. He spins whilst making contact with Vapor Josh. TDB has, I believe, come into the pits in the Mercedes, and Josh and Buttons back made contact. Buttons back span round, and Vapor Josh has come into the pits with, I think, front wing damage as a result of that. So quite a lot of hard racing going on. Meanwhile, Trixie just behind his teammate for how much longer? Gets ahead of Castu on the run down towards turn 2. Looked as though Castu actually yielded the position to his teammate to allow Trixie to get after Sam, who has gotten himself up to P6 off the start in the Williams. So Williams 5th and 6th at the moment. Sam with 3 points finishes from the 5 races he's contested so far in the Formula PlayStation League, and both the Williams now being chased by the McLaren of Trixie, who looks to set after them and try and claim first of all P6 from Sam and P5 from Shea. Shea managed to claim that podium finish last time in France for his 2nd of the season, despite being knocked off pole by the Red Bull of Nuth, who continues to look unstoppable out front, leading this race now by just over a second. He's broken the DRS of Vapor King. Meanwhile, side by again, because Cam's being overtaken by Fashion down towards turn 1, and will Cam be able to defend the position? He goes down the inside of Fashion. Fashion's got to leave in space. Cam goes down the inside behind them. Bazooka Joe looking intensely at this battle. Fashion again tries to go to the inside, and once again Cam does well to leave a bit of space on the inside to avoid any contact, as Shea gets a penalty. Meanwhile, for exceeding track limits, that'll be frustrating for him. Brown has been getting pretty close to the other AlphaTauri of Allsoppy in a battle for 9th place. Those two just inside the points paying positions, as Vapor Trench looks to close the gap back on Reese and retake in place from the Ferrari. Trench looking for his 2nd podium of the season so far. Castu picked up a penalty in 8th place in McLaren for exceeding track limits. Trent get a good run the final couple of corners where he doesn't really need to, because into the pits comes Reese in the Ferrari. This could leave actually Trent a little bit vulnerable to Shea behind him. Shea being chased by his teammate Sam. And there is Reese into the pits, and it is a set of the medium compound tyres on for him on lap 5 of this Grand Prix, which means he'll undoubtedly be making at least one more stop over the course of the Grand Prix. Brown now side by side again with Allsoppy, and those two are going to run it side by side on the run down towards turn 2. Brown gets ahead of the AlphaTauri and manages to this time consolidate the position and get himself up into 8th place. And now Allsoppy being chased by his teammate Cam, as Cam gets a little bit leery off the exit of turn 4, manages to hold on to the car and can now go in pursuit of his teammate down towards the bottom of the points paying positions. But it's Brown now who can try and chase after Castu, who has that penalty, of course. There it is. And I wonder if at all the Williams drivers will decide to swap and get one of them to chase after Trench. It's a little bit vulnerable, doesn't he, to Shea here. Trench is going to have Sam will have DRS on both of them, but Sam's been of a DRS train so far. He's not going to be for long, because into the pits have come Trench and Shea. So the soft compound tyres really not lasting very long at all, despite the cooler track temperatures at the moment in these overcast conditions. Trent onto a set of medium tyres. I would imagine Shea will do much the same. Much the same. Much the same in the Williams. Away he goes. Yeah, medium tyres on for him. And rejoined still behind the Mercedes. Here comes Bazooka Joe down the inside of Fashion. Oh, it gets very close into turn 2. There is a bit of contact on the exit. Fashion manages to stay ahead. It wasn't a position that Bazooka Joe was about to gain. Unfortunately, just came from a little bit too far back, a little bit too late. Fashion stay ahead of him in what is now a battle for P9, with the pit stops going on around these two, and Joe cuts the corner and gets a penalty as a result in his pursuit of the Alfa Romeo in front. Both of these two on the medium compound tyre, having started outside of the top 10 in this Grand Prix. Buttons back picks up a penalty meanwhile. These two. And he's also recovering through the grid after that contact as well with Vapor Josh at the beginning of the race. Josh, unfortunately for him, hasn't really had an awful lot of luck so far over the course of this Grand Prix. And after that contact, he had to come into the pits as well. Right, some more pit stops. Lots more pit stops. Meanwhile, though, here comes Bazooka Joe. He's going down the inside, this time on the Alfa Romeo of Fashion, and gets ahead of Fashion into turn 1. Just about gets the Ferrari stopped. And manages to place Casu into the pits for a front wing change and a set of medium compound tyre. Brown has come into the pits as well. That's how... has Vapor Josh? Yeah, Vapor Josh I think has come in as well, has he? No, Vapor Josh has... Of course, he's still on the tyres that he came onto after the contact with Buttons back, isn't he? So, sent away. Trixky also into the pit in the other McLaren. Sam has also come in. And Sam has rejoined, as you can see, ahead of his teammate Bechet. So the overcut has actually worked there, Sam, rather than an undercut for Bechet, which is something you usually see in Formula 1. Sam was pretty close to it before the pit stop. Interesting now to see if he can pull away from his teammate, or if Shea will continue to run closely with Sam. Buttons back, meanwhile, just behind Fashion in the battle for 5th. As he chases him up towards the final corner. These two have got Reese behind them, who has just come onto a set of medium tyres, so the Ferrari's going to be looking to make up ground quickly in his pursuit of a podium. And Nuth has come into the pits as well now for Red Bull. He's going to rejoin right in this battle, isn't he, with the likes of Fashion and Buttons back. And just in front of them, we got going side by side again, this time with all Soppy. Got just ahead of Nuth. As Reese gets ahead of Fashion, just in front of Buttons back. So Reese doing well to carve his way back through the field, having made his pit stop. Now he's just behind Vapor Nuth, with Bazooka Joe just in front of the World Championship leader. So quite a lot of racing going on right now. Here comes Nuth, getting very, very close to the Ferrari of Bazooka Joe. Then Reese, then Fashion, Buttons back, and then Vapor King behind him. So Vapor King's lost quite a bit of ground, hasn't he, having started from 2nd. He's now fallen behind Reese in the pit stop phases, so it's not the opening 8 laps that he would have hoped for. As here comes Nuth down the inside of Joe. Oh, locks up, forces the Ferrari off the track. This is doing Reese a world of good at the moment. Reese now right behind Nuth, who still tries to go around the outside. Oh, there's contact with Bazooka Joe. He just holds on to it, but it gives Reese the position. And Reese has the effective race lead. And now behind Fashion's down the inside of Nuth. And also Vapor King getting past Nuth as well. So that one incident has cost Nuth about 3 positions. And now King looks at his teammate Fashion. And it gets very close between those two. Fashion making a little mistake through turn 1, and yep, a swap of positions there between the Alfa Romeos as King gets ahead of his teammate. Oh, but Vapor Nuth will be absolutely livid with that. A bit of contact with Bazooka Joe incidentally helped the other Ferrari of Reese get into what will be the race lead once the 2 Alpha Tauris of Cam and Allsoppy make their way into the pits. This has now made for a very interesting Grand Prix indeed. Because as you can see, Reese is right behind the first Alpha Tauri that he looks to pass of Allsoppy. And he wants to do that quickly because Vapor King is right behind him. Can he go round the outside? No, he can't. He's got to be careful because one mistake will allow the Alfa Romeo of King to get ahead of him. Reese on the Alpha Tauri isn't quite close enough just yet. And Vapor Nuth is losing more positions. He's lost out to Buttons back. He's lost out to Trench as well in the Mercedes. What is happening here to Nuth? And meanwhile, it's 3 wide up ahead as around the outside goes King. So King's managed to get past Reese. Now he's got past Allsoppy. Reese cuts back underneath the Alpha Tower. He's in the slipstream now. Tries to get ahead of him, but that's now given Vapor King the effective race lead here in Hungary as Buttons back gets ahead of Trench on the run down towards turn 1. They're side by side on the exit. Gets very close indeed between those two. They're still going to be running at wheel to wheel as Buttons back tries to go round the outside of turn 2. Reese goes round the outside of Allsoppy as Nuth gets, Buttons back gets the move done on, no, he doesn't get the move done on Trench. He ended up having to defend from Sam just to try and keep that position. Nuth has ended up, where's Nuth? Nuth's down in 13th place, so yeah, I think Nuth had to come back into the pits, I believe, in the Red Bull. And he's now, as you can see, behind the Ferrari Bazooka Joe. So this has gone horribly wrong for the pole sitter. It'll be the second consecutive race that the pole sitter will have failed to win the Grand Prix. As meanwhile, Fashion having to defend the Mercedes of... it's a brilliant move from Trench to get ahead of Fashion. Fantastic pass to the Mercedes, but he does extend track limits on the exit of the corner, which is going to mean that he's going to have to make that time up. Sam, meanwhile, still just ahead of his teammate Vapor Shea as he looks to chase down the Red Bull of Buttons back. Oh, it gets very Larry on the exit. It's ahead. Shea manages to pass his teammate who made a slight error on the exit of the final corner. That was all it took for him to lose the position. And Shea is back ahead of his teammate, gets very close on the exit. And now Shea's not going to close up to the Red Bull of Buttons back on the run down towards turn 2. And Trench is now passing Allsoppy into turn 2, into P4 for him. Vapor King still has the effective race lead with Cam, 7.5 seconds ahead, still yet to come into the pits. So this is actually working pretty well for Allsoppy. He can make those medium tyres go quite a long way and get himself a decent points finish. All things going well for him. Meanwhile, further down the order, Fashion in P6 behind Allsoppy now, looking to overtake the AlphaTauri. It's Cam, I should say, in P1, not Allsoppy. Wide goes the Williams of Sam. That's going to put Trixky right on his tail on the run in towards the final sector. This is crazy stuff. There's a train of cars all going front wing to gearbox at the moment in what is proving to be a very entertaining Aramco Hungarian Grand Prix indeed. Down the home straight then, who's going to have the run? Who's going to have the best advantage in what is now turning into a bit of a DRS train behind? We've got Trixky looking to go down the inside of Sam, not quite able to get the move done on him. As we look back at Fashion and Buttons back. Oh, and Fashion now down the inside of Allsoppy. And can he get the move done? Yes, he can. Buttons back now defending from Vapor Shea. Oh, it's a massive crash for the Alfa Romeo of Fashion. Fashion's got off the track, as has Allsoppy. Both of them out of the race. Virtual safety car deployed. A huge accident between those two. Vapor Josh gets past them both. And Fashion and Allsoppy going side by side through turn 3, making massive contact, and both of those drivers now out of the Grand Prix. And the virtual safety car will just calm things down a little. But Fashion, who would have been looking for a podium finish in the midst of Nuth's misfortune after the pit stop, has made contact with the AlphaTauri. This is the perfect chance for the race leader Cam to come into the pits and gain quite a bit of time in doing so as well. How much track position will he have gained from this, particularly with all the battling that's been going on behind him so far in this Grand Prix? It's been a crazy race to keep up with so far. As away he goes. King, who started second on the grid, out-qualified his teammate Fashion for the 4th time this season, looking to win this race from second place, but he's going to have a bit of competition Behind him, meanwhile, Trixky and Sam going side by side. Sam tries to hold it round the outside of turn 2. They've got Buttons back just in front of them. Will Sam hold the inside and towards turn 3? Oh, yes, he will. And they're still going to be will to will on the run towards turn 4. No, Trixky has the move done. It's a very good pass indeed from the McLaren of Trixky to get ahead of Sam. And fair play, they gave each other enough space. And now here comes TDB down the inside of Sam. And is he able to get ahead of the Williams driver? Not quite. He was pretty close. And meanwhile, Buttons back is ahead of Trixky now. Trixky, yeah, just behind the Rebel. I think he was ahead anyway. The timing screen's just showing a change of positions. He was ahead anyway. As Trixky now looks to hold on to the position from the Williams. And he's pretty close, isn't he, to the back of the Red Bull of Buttons back. Up towards the final corner. And this is going to be a good enough exit. Well, it's not a great exit, is it, for Buttons back? This is going to be a really good run now for Trixky on the run down towards turn 1. TDB looks for a move on Sam as well. Trixky's down the inside looking for 6th place. And he gets 6th place. Can he get the car stopped? Yes, he can. Good move. And Buttons back forced now down to 7th place. Cam has rejoined in 4th in the AlphaTauri. This is a great job from him. Oh, it's pretty close. And the Red Bull is being attacked by Sam, and Sam trying to get ahead of Buttons back is not able to do so, but now he's down the inside of the turn 4. Oh, that's going to be contact. Yeah, and he spins round. That was a move that was never going to work for Sam. Buttons back, I think, has just got away with it. Yes, he has, but now he's being passed down the inside by TDB, who gets in front. And has Buttons back got any damage, I wonder, from any of that? No, he hasn't. He survived it, but Vapor Nuth, his teammate, is now right behind him. Buttons back moves out of his way. This is proving to be a calamitous race for the Red Bull drivers. With TDB capitalising on the contact between Sam and Buttons back. Sam, unfortunately, that was never going to work for him, was it? It was always going to end in tears. Meanwhile, Cam looking for the podium places in the AlphaTauri. Can he get there? Would be his 2nd podium of the season, trying to go round the outside trench into turn 1. Has he got the space on the exit? Yes, he has. And he surely gets past the Mercedes. Yes, he does, with the aid of DRS. And up to 3rd place now goes Cam. And with just 4 seconds up to Reese on much fresher hard tyres. And Vapor Josh has left the session in the Renault. Of course, the drivers ahead of Cam will have to stop again. So, a 2nd win of the season for the AlphaTauri of Cam. Provided he can look after those hard tyres to the end. And, of course, the median runners ahead and around him will have to pit again. So that virtual safety car has really worked wonders for Cam. Meanwhile, Nuth looking to catch up to TDB as these two run through the middle sector in towards the last few corners of the lap. And what is proving to be a bit of an upset race. Safety car has been deployed because Kasu is out of the Grand Prix. There is the driverless for Josh, essentially, and Kasu has gone into the wall. Yeah, just behind him. So that's 3 retirements from the Grand Prix. The AlphaTauri of Olsopi crashing with the Alfa Romeo of Fashion. And Nuth is coming into the pits now for Red Bull, as is Trixky. Buttons back is in, Brown's in, is in, Sam has come into the pits, Cam's come into the pits. There's all sorts of pit stops going on, but held up because of his teammate Vapor Nuth coming into the pits right in front of him. So that's cost him even more time. It's not going to matter too much because we are under safety car, of course. And this will shake up the order again. Interestingly, Reese has chosen to stay out on the medium tyres. And so that's going to cost him massively, because when he comes into the pits, he'll be behind everybody. And this safety car is going to close the pack up, so Reese will be hoping he can get round to the pits behind this safety car as quickly as possible. So that he can come into the pits and not rejoin at the very back of the pack. So Vapor King has been disqualified from the race as well. Interestingly, I'm not sure what Vapor King's done, but yeah, the driver who was leading this race then has been disqualified. So all soppy fashion, Kasu joining Vapor King in being out of this Grand Prix. Reese leads at the moment with Cam just behind him, so Reese, sadly for him, has not been able to make it back round to the pits in time to make a pit stop and rejoin in a decent position, but he does now bring that Ferrari into the pits as Reese. So I guess himself and King will have been past the start finish line or past the pits when the safety car was brought out, so that's cost Reese horribly in his pursuit of a race win. It gives Cam the lead. Trench is up to second. Shea now on for a podium position. And all of a sudden, Nuth is up to fourth and right back in contention of winning this Grand Prix. Buttons back. Nuth's teammate has been pushed right the way down to 12th place, outside of the points positions. And still, Buttons back, despite his teammates' successes so far in the league, is yet to get a podium, yet to get a win. And 3 finishes in the top 10 with 1 non-finish thus far in Season 5 of the FPSL, and at the moment on for a finish outside of here in Hungary in what has been an absolutely thrilling Grand Prix thus far. 17 different race winners here in Hungary, including Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso, Michael Schumacher, Jenson Button, as we mentioned earlier, Mark Webber for Red Bull. Of course, Red Bull, since 2010, have only won 2 Grand Prix at this circuit, with Webber in 2010 and then Daniel Ricciardo in 2014. In the first of the hybrid era races. Right, safety car in at the end of this lap. And will Cam be able to get a good restart to get away from Trent? She'll need it because Shea and Nuth will be eagerly awaiting any mistakes behind them. Cam has to wait for the safety car to come back into the pits. No overtaking until the start-finish line. Safety car peels into the pit lane, and Cam now will control the pace, and he'll control when he goes. When does he go for it? Not just yet. And oh, look at Nuth behind. This is going to be carnage, and across the start-finish line they go. And this could be 4 wide because Nuth and Shea and Trench all going side by side. TDB's in there as well. Round the outside goes Nuth. There's Shea just in front. TDB's got ahead of all of them to 3rd place, but Shea now defending the inside. And Shea gets up to 2nd place in the Williams. And TDB up to 3rd. Trench is the big loser in all of that. Nuth up to 4th. Trench has fallen all the way down to 5th position off the restart. So it's a restart that's not worked out at all well for the Mercedes. The Mercedes and TDB has launched in place of the resumption of this Aramco Hungarian Grand Prix. There is TDB just behind Shea. Nuth now chasing TDB for the final podium position as it is at the moment. Trixie still just ahead of Sam. We've seen those two going side by side so far. Here comes Nuth down the inside of TDB. Has he overshot it? No, it's a beautiful move from the Red Bull. Now look at Trench because he's going to have the run of the team out through the final couple of corners. Trixie also preying on any errors there. But after a race that looked to have been going wrong for Nuth, he's now up into the podium places, I should say. Now Trench and TDB going side by side. Trench has his nose in front and gets ahead of his teammate on the run down towards turn 1. Look at Trixie as well, looking to take advantage of all of that. Sam just behind him, and he's just ahead of the Ferrari of Reese, who has been dropped down just inside the points positions after his pit stop. The safety car was awfully timed for him, and he is now harrying the Williams in that battle for 7th position. So TDB have got a great start. He's now gone back down to 5th place. There is Nuth chasing down Shea, and Cam knows he has to get a move on if he wants to win this Grand Prix. And with 17 laps to go, I would imagine, oh, very wide indeed goes Shea. I would imagine that these tyres will probably just about make it to the end, unless I'm sorely mistaken, which I normally am. Nuth that this is going to be second place for him in a race that started very well, but went a little bit AWOL as he made contact with Bazooka Joe. That allowed Reese to get in front. He then lost a handful of positions, two handfuls of positions really, as Cam sets the fastest lap, 1:17.4 out front. No DRS just yet, and Nuth unable to close up quite enough to Shea to get himself in front of the Williams driver. As he chases him down towards turn 2, DRS will become available the next time they cross the start-finish line. And so that'll be Nuth's opportunity to get ahead of the Williams, although look at how much he's closing up towards turn 4 for second position. No real chance of an overtake there, as we saw with Sam and Buttons back earlier on in the Grand Prix. Buttons back now occupying the final points position in this Grand Prix. Trixie still just behind the two Mercedes of TDB and Vapor Trench. Sam holding off Reese for the time being. For how much longer will Shea be holding off Nuth? Nuth is all over the back of the Williams as they head in towards these final few corners of the lap. A little bit of a lock-up from Nuth, but holds the car pretty well. Still, I don't think we'll have DRS. No, he won't have DRS this time around, but might not need it because he's got a very good run out towards the final corner. The exit looks to be a little bit better than that of Shea. And he has got DRS. Actually, DRS is enabled. And now Nuth down the inside. Flies past the Williams of Shea. Up into second place. And now 3 seconds to make up to catch the race leader, Cam. And this is going to be an extraordinary win from pole position for Nuth, having lost all those positions earlier on in the Grand Prix. And the 17th win from pole. Or will it be the 14th win from outside the front row for the AlphaTauri of Cam? We will wait to find out. Purple first sector as well from Nuth, having just gained that position. There's Trixie in the McLaren looking for 5th place and trying to get ahead of the Mercedes of TDB. Trench is closing up quite a lot as well to Shea now. So Shea's in danger of losing the podium place. There is Trench as the sun starts to make more of an appearance, and also making a reappearance are the penalties. And Vapor Nuth with a 3-second time penalty. So if he wants to win this Grand Prix, he needs to pass Cam and build a gap. TDB has a penalty as well, just behind his teammate Trench, which is going to play into the hands of Trixie and Sam and Reese as well. Reese at the minute is caught in a bit of a slipstream and DRS strain, so he's not able to, at the moment, to make any more progress from what is 8th on the grid. Nuth with the fastest lap, 1:17.0 from the World Championship leader. And Trench not quite close enough to Shea just yet. Trixie closing up to TDB, but still not able to make a move on Reese. There's Reese looking to try and make a move on the Williams, who of course are going to be run from the Tuscan Grand Prix onwards without the Williams family for the first time in their history. Reese following Sam through turn 4. Was looking at one point as though Reese was on for the victory, but now languishing down in 8th place, having been really screwed over by the timing of the safety car, which had come out just after he passed the pits, so it was a nightmare for him in the Ferrari. And he's now trying to make his way back up the order. Behind him, Brown's got a penalty for exceeding track limits. Buttons back is down in 10th place. Bazooka Joe currently outside the points as well. Can Buttons back make any inroads and try and make some progress in this Hungarian Grand Prix? The Haas of Brown in front of him, 4 races, hasn't scored any points yet. Buttons back takes 9th place off of him, and Brown now, oh, cuts back underneath him though. This is good racing between these two. They're still wheel to wheel, but Buttons back's got the inside covered on the run down towards turn 2. Brown now is in danger of losing out to Bazooka Joe, and once again falling out of the points places as we rejoin Trixie's pursuit of TDB in front of him. Towards the chicane of 6 and 7 they go. looking for some kind of opportunity to get ahead of the Mercedes, but you can see just the effect the dirty air is having, and it's just causing drivers to lose time by the bucket load as they look to chase after the driver in front. What's of course not helping is, as I said, the DRS train and the slipstream train, which is just halting drivers' progress down the straight. Nuth now has got the gap to Cam to just under 2 seconds, so 1.5 seconds now between those two out front. Cam looks in danger of losing the race lead, but of course Nuth does have a penalty to his name, which will just make it quite interesting towards the end of the race, I imagine. Trixie still not quite close enough to TDB. Trixie's teammate Kasu with 3 races in 3 finishes in the points with 1 podium. As I said earlier, Trixie's tally. Oh, it's going to be still at the same. No more points finishes for Trixie because he spun on the exit of turn 4. He's gone into the barrier. Will that cause a safety car? It will. Safety car is deployed, so more drama in this Grand Prix. And what's happened to Cam as well? Cam has fallen down to 7th place. So, yeah, Cam's made a mistake somewhere, and I think he's lost his front wing. Has he still got an attack? No, he's still got an attack. So somewhere Cam's made a huge error, and he's lost the lead to Nuth. And the pole sitter, whose race looked to have gone, well, bottoms up, really, as all of a sudden turned itself on its head, and it's now a P1 for Nuth before the safety car, but Nuth decides not to pit. TDB, Reese, Cam, Buttons back, Brown and Bazooka Joe have all come into the pits as a result of the safety car with 11 laps to go. There is TDB, away goes Reese, in comes Buttons back onto the soft compound tyre. Of course those tyres now will make it to the end of the Grand Prix, but Trixie, I just put the commentator's curse on him. I was just about to say he's on for his 2nd points finish of the season. But that's not going to happen now because he's put his car in the wall and is the 5th driver to retire from this Hungarian Grand Prix. What a nightmare that was for Trixie running inside the points. He was chasing down TDB, looking for a top 5 finish. And as a result of the safety car and the pit stop, Sam is now up to P4. Trench is up to the podium, places in 3rd. Shade still 2nd, Nuth still P1 because those two opted not to pit under the safety car. TDB, Reese, Cam, Buttons back, all on softs, and Bazooka Joe has made a huge mistake because he's gone onto the intermediate tyres. What's happened there for Joe? Well, he's clearly made a huge error in selecting the tyres before he came into the pits because he's gone onto a set of inters. And he's going to have to pit again now to try and close up to the pack. This will put him outside the points because the ghost car of Josh is not far behind him. Well, that is a disaster. Well, a bit of a throwback to the YouTuber Championship with Arav switching on to the intermediates, and Bazooka Joe is going to have to come into the pits again, and this time try and select the right tyre. Right, TDB and Sam just about going side by side there. Joe then comes back into the pits, and hopefully this time he's selected a set of slick tyres rather than a set of intermediates. Yeah, he's gone onto the medium compound tyre now, has Joe. Hasn't cost him too much because, of course, we're under the safety car, so he can pretty easily just catch back up to the pack. I say easily. The pack now is just going up towards turn 4. So he's got a bit of catching up to do, bearing in mind the safety car could well come in at the end of this lap. We don't really know. Well, the last safety car restart gave us quite a bit of side-by-side action. Will this one do so as well?